So little has changed, and yet, of course, since the earthquake, the whole world has changed for the people of Haiti. When we were there 6 months ago, a few days after the quake struck, we visited Matthew 25, which is a Catholic hospitality house. Generally, it has about 30 people who are coming to visit. In the soccer field outside, they had more than 1,000, sometimes 2,000 people who were staying outside at that time. Now there's a tent camp of some 600, 800 people, a very organized tent camp. We went back and talked to Sister Mary Finnick, who runs Matthew 25.
I'm Sister Mary Finnick, and I'm Great Nun of the Sacred Heart from Yardley, Pennsylvania. And I'm director of Matthew 25 House here in Port-au-Prince.
What do you think people most need to understand right now, 6 months after the earthquake?
Most people, I think, outside of Haiti need to understand that as yet there doesn't seem to be a whole plan in place as to what is going to happen to Port-au-Prince and the environments. I mean, in the beginning, it was obvious that it would be very good to get people out of Port-au-Prince so that there could be the beginning of tearing down what needed to be torn down. And people did leave, but there were no resources where they went. So shortly, they were out there maybe a month or even less than that and came back to Port-au-Prince because that's where there would be some resources for them. So the knowledge was there to say we need to get people out of Port-au-Prince, but then it stopped with seeming to stop only with planning and talking and meetings and this is what we need to do and this is what we should do. But the actualization of it didn't seem to happen, and I think what took place, in my mind, what took over were individuals started doing it themselves.
We see almost no clearing of the rubble.
Well, we have a kind of interesting story on that, was that they paid by the truckload and nobody followed through. So the truck drivers, being smart, just went down 2 streets and emptied it out and went back and got another truckload. And so what should have been where they should have taken it out of the city, they just made themselves a job for 3 weeks by just picking up the same rubble from a different street. And then now they have a different system.
You look like you have one of the best camps that we have seen. Can you talk about how this happened? When we left you, you had something like 1,000 people on the soccer field right after the earthquake in January.
In January, we had close to 2,000, and but this soccer field is well known in this neighborhood and was a place where people congregated. It was their social life, and in this neighborhood too. There'd been a strong almost like a neighborhood committee that had gathered and were in the process of wanting to have a school. So there were identified leaders here already, and one specific one, Tay, who happens to work for us, was like president of this committee. And come the earthquake, shortly afterwards, we started processing what was going to take place here, and this committee began work. Lions Club came, offered to become a tent city, told us we could become a tent city, but they had to prioritize as to who would get a tent. This committee went through everybody in the camp, made their priorities, and then asked me to announce them. And Patricia Patrick and Vivian Totora, if we would tell the people who they are. And we said, you know, you've done all this hard work, so why don't you do it? This is time for Haiti and Haitians to tell Haitians this is what needs to be done. So they said, okay. And since then, they truly have run the camp. They had a committee of 24. We're now down to 11. They had 7 committees, and they had everybody's name on them. Then when the sanitation committee got together, they contacted Soil, and so we have Soil is Sustainable Organic Integrated Living Lifestyle. Anyway, we have compost toilets. 2 of them were built, 4 each, and we have children's arbortoils. And I think that there were people that would come here that wanted to see the camp, and I think the camp took on the kind of life it took on was set by this committee. Each person that received a tent, there was a ceremony to it. The person was called, and the family came, and they was said that this is your tent. And these are the things you have to do. You have to not cook in your tent. You can't have a fire in your tent. You can't have really sharp objects. And you must keep your tent clean. And if you're willing to do that, and they shook hands, and the person said, all right, this is your home.
How did they
unzipped it?
How do they get food?
They got food in a number of ways, mostly through donations that we received. We did get food for children, got a number of those. Most of it was piecemeal, scrambled. Out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, we had shiploads of food would come in for us. People would leave money, we'd go out and buy it.
Is that still happening now?
Well, I'm still functioning on that. We're still, we don't have to buy as much food because what we've also done is tried to start businesses. And we have one major business that's going on out there, and that is building geodesic homes. A man came from Casper, Wyoming, and had this idea, and I said, sure, come. It got some of the young men interested in it, and we have one on the field that the sick people are living in, and they're building another now as a show.
That huge one.
Yeah, huge one. That huge one. And hopefully they'll start their business, and they can be constructed anywhere.
What about the American Red Cross? Have you seen that money distributed?
I've seen their trucks. I've seen their cars.